unusual situation today. I'm on Skype and my guest is actually in the San Francisco studio. So you have to trust me that this is for real. Trust is indeed the subject of today's interview. Fortunate enough to have Bruce Schneier, who is the author of Liars and Outliers, an important new book about the trust economy. Bruce is an internationally known security expert and authority on trust. So, Bruce, thanks again for coming into San Francisco. Welcome to TechCrunch TV.
Thanks for having me, wherever you are.
Well, I won't tell you where I am until I trust you, Bruce. So you've written this really interesting new book about trust called Liars and Outliers, Enabling the Trust That Society Needs to Thrive. Now, of course, trust has always been integral in the way in which society operates. But it seems as if in the digital 21st century, as the internet becomes more and more central in our lives, that trust itself is becoming more and more critical. The more and more the most important way in which not only the internet can work in today's society, but society can also operate. So, Bruce, to begin, why did you choose to write this book about trust?
You know, I didn't really choose to write the book about trust. I chose to write a book about security, sort of why security exists. Why is it that we as a people have security and how it works? And I ended up writing about trust because security is a mechanism by which we induce trust. So the goal is to have trust, right? And in order to get that, we have security. That's why there are door locks. That's why there are anti-theft laws. We want to live in a trusted society. There are always going to be untrustworthy people, and we need security to make up that gap.
But Bruce, what is the connection between today's technology and the reality that trust is more and more central, problematic, but also offers, of course, tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurs and thinkers like yourself?
It's a complicated question. I mean, I'm not sure trust is more central. Trust has always been central. You know, if you think about wandering through your day, the people you have to trust. You know, I'm right here in San Francisco at a conference. There are 20,000 people there, and at no point did anybody rush and stab each other. Now, you know, we might laugh because of course not, but if we were a bunch of chimpanzees, you know, we couldn't, I mean, that would never happen. Human society is built on trust. I'm at a hotel, I'm trusting people. I flew here, the huge amount of trust in my passengers, the airlines, the corporations, the government systems. I use an ATM machine, the international banking system. All of these are trust-based systems, you know, and we don't even think about them. I mean, the neat thing about living in a society with high trust is that it falls into the background. Now, certainly the information age changes how trust works, right? It allows it to scale. So I can use eBay and trust merchants all over the world I've never met. Or as I suppose, you know, here in San Francisco, I'll walk into any random store and not even think about it, and I'll buy something. So the internet, Facebook, right, trusting people you've never seen through text, trusting people globally. You know, what the internet is doing is it allowing us to scale trust. And that's interesting. But it's not new. We've always lived on trust.
But in this new scaling of trust, would it be fair to say that we live in a society where we seem to trust less and less the traditional authorities, whether they're political or institutional, financial?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I think about it again. I trusted the airline to fly me here safely. I trusted the ATM machine. I trusted the hotel. I'm trusting the police, the building codes. I mean, you know, what makes the news is the stuff around the edges, right? So we're not trusting Congress. We're not trusting the banks. We're not trusting the corporations. And that's true. But in the main, we do trust them. So what's going on is and I think this is real important, is that what technology is doing is it allowing the few of us, right, the minority of us that abuse trust to do more damage. So with a technological-based system, a spammer can send more spam email than he could without it. A fraudster can do more identity theft on computers than he could do face-to-face. A corporation who wants to pollute, I'm making this up, can do more damage now than he could do 100 years ago. The government can do more damage. Technology allows the untrustworthy to do more damage, and that's what we're seeing. And when we say, we don't trust corporations, not that we don't. I mean, we buy stuff from corporations all the time. It's just that we know that the few among them who will abuse our trust can do a lot of damage.
Trust, though, is intimately bound up also with our new reputation economy, isn't it? What do you say about this relationship in your book between trust and reputation in the networked economy?
Well, we'll start with the unnetworked economy. Reputation actually is a security mechanism. Right? A lot of us don't do bad things because of what our peers would say. It's not, let's say I'm at home and a friend steals my sweater. I'm not going to call the police. I'm just not going to invite him to my house anymore. And that is a reputational-based security system. We don't, eat more than our share at the family table because we don't get a reputation as a glutton. Corporations don't cheat their customers because they don't want reputations as being a company that cheats people. So reputation is a security mechanism. Now, technology aids that system. So Angie's List is a reputational-based system aided by technology. The eBay feedback mechanism is the same way. Yelp is the same way. The credit reporting system. Right, 100 years ago, you would walk into a bank and you'd talk to a loan officer who knew you, and he would give you a loan or not based on your reputation. Did he think you would pay it back? Now you can walk into a bank anywhere in the country, or really you'd go into the bank's website, you'd apply for a loan, and they're going to use your credit score, which is a reputational-based technological system that tells them whether you're likely to repay your loan or not. So technology allows reputation to scale. Now, of course, like any reputational system, you can attack it. So you can post fake reviews on Yelp. There was an article in the New York Times about a month ago about companies paying for fake 5-star reviews on Amazon. Right? That's an attempt to game a reputational system. We hear a lot about eBay feedback, companies trying to get fake feedback. But by and large, those systems work. So technology is great for reputation.
Doesn't that worry you at all, though? You use the example of your friend who came over and stole a sweater. In the old days, as you say, you probably wouldn't see that person again. Today, perhaps what you might do is post that on Facebook.
Indeed.
And you would undermine the reputation of your friend, who may indeed have had an aberration, and now he's going to have the reputation, he or she will have the reputation as a thief that will stick to them their whole life.
Now, some of that's not new, right? 100 years ago, if he stole my sweater, I would, not invite him over, and I'd probably tell all my friends, do you know what Harry did? He took my sweater. So the internet, I'm doing the same thing. I'm posting it on Facebook. But the problem is, and a bunch of people are researching this, that it stays. As you say, it's there forever. It might be world readable. So it's not just me telling my friends. It's me telling everybody forever. And yes, that's, I think, a big societal change and something we're really still working through. And there are lots of examples of people whose really lives have been ruined because someone posted bad stuff about them that they can't get rid of. There are websites for bad waitresses, bad customers. There are websites where people can diss their ex-boyfriends and girlfriends. All of these sites where people are posting effectively gossip. That's staying forever. So yeah, and I mean, thinking about this and worrying about this, I think is very important.
Bruce, what kind of technological innovation would you like to see that would help enable trust in our digital age? And perhaps you might say a little bit about the entrepreneurial opportunities as well, because there are many startup entrepreneurs in our audience who I think will be intrigued by your opinions on this.
So throughout our species is really good at navigating trust, and it's complex. We can walk into a party and navigate those dozens of relationships, people we know well, people we just met, people we don't want to talk to, and we can change our trust boundaries and talk intimately or less intimately depending on who. We're just really good at that. Right? We do it naturally. We have evolved to be good at that. we start failing on not those evolved social systems, but on those deliberately created socio-technical systems. So on Facebook, we don't have that same intuition because things are different. On email, on websites, so things are the same. It's all people, but the technology gets in the way. So when you think of building communities, building societies, facilitating trust, the more you can mirror the way people work in the real world. Right? On Facebook, I have to go set a privacy policy. In the real world, I never do that. My privacy policy, if you can call it that, is intuitive, it's fluid, it's dynamic. It's not setting checkboxes. So the more we can make our systems human, the more people will use them, and the people will use them to facilitate trust. I mean, some of the neatest things about these socio-technical systems, these online communication systems, is that people have sort of abused them in ways to foster intimacy. Right? So you think about Second Life or Twitter, right? The @ sign and the hashtag. I mean, the two biggest inventions of Twitter were not invented by Twitter. They were invented by Twitter users trying to shape that system into something more human. So the more freedom, the more power, the more ability, the more you can let people do what they want, the better you're going to make your systems. And that'll facilitate trust.
So Bruce, if Facebook and Twitter and Second Life are what you're implying, rather primitive versions of trust systems, have you seen anything that gets beyond them? Have you seen any interesting new startups or technologies which enable what you're describing?
I haven't. I don't wander around the real new stuff very carefully, so I'm sure there's things I'm missing. But in some ways, email, chat rooms, the things without a lot of interface work better because they give people the freedom to do what they want. I mean, I've had friendships that have sprung up on Usenet news groups and then moved to email. The first employee of my company, I never met till after I hired him. That's kind of interesting. And it happened via news group and then via email and then via phone calls. Right? So those sort of more and more intimate ways of meeting somebody.
And it's interesting you say that because, of course, chat rooms were around in the 90s.
And chat was around, tens of thousands of years ago. None of this is new. And we have to remember that. And as technologists, we get enamored with the technology. But it's all people. And that's, I think, the beauty of it.
And people now are talking about this thing called, I think Chris Dixon entitled it the Internet of People. Do you like that idea? And is that the core of this new trust economy?
I don't think it's a new trust economy. I think the Internet has always been an Internet of people. And yes, I do like it.
Well, Bruce Schneier, the author of Liars and Outliers, an important new book about trust. I trust that everyone will buy it, and I trust that you will have a good time in San Francisco. And thank you so much for coming on to TechCrunch TV.
Thank you for having me.